And that, kids, is why you never, ever invite humans to your galactic potluck. 427 buzzed, its antennae twitching in what passed for a smirk among the arthropodians. The gathered younglings chittered excitedly, their compound eyes gleaming with curiosity. One of them, braver than the rest, raised a spindly appendage. But Elder Zix, I thought humans were our allies. The history modules say they saved us from the Great Void Scourge. Zix 427 let out a long, weary sigh that sounded suspiciously like air escaping from a deflating balloon. Oh, they saved us all right. Saved us so hard we're still finding pieces of the galaxy stuck between our mandibles. The elder paused, its chitinous body creaking as it settled into a more comfortable position. Gather round, you little grubs. It's time you learned about the greatest galactic oopsie in the history of, well, oopsies. As the younglings huddled closer, their antennae quivering with anticipation, Zix 427 began its tale. Picture this: there we were, 200 standard cycles ago, living our best lives in a galaxy teeming with 127 known intelligent species. We had it all: the sleek and sexy nebulons with their bioluminescent jazz clubs, the lumbering gravitons who could crush a planet with a well-timed belch, and even the charming octo-brains who could solve differential equations while juggling 8 different drinks. It was a cosmic party, and everyone was invited. Zix 427 paused dramatically, its mandibles clicking. Then the humans showed up. A collective gasp rippled through the young audience. Oh, don't act so surprised. You've all seen humans. They're everywhere now, like that annoying glitter stuff they love so much. But back then, they were the new kids on the galactic block, fresh out of their little corner of the cosmos, with their adorable pre-FTL hangover and bright-eyed wonder. The elder's tone took on a mocking lilt. Oh, look at us. We've mastered gravity manipulation. Ooh, we can terraform a planet in just a decade. Watch us turn this gas giant into a giant bouncy castle. Zix 427 waved its appendages in a poor imitation of human gesticulation. Cute, right? We thought so too. Big mistake. Huge. One of the younglings raised an appendage tentatively. But Elder, if humans were so cute, how did they save us? Zix 427's compound eyes seemed to darken. Ah, therein lies the rub, my little larva. You see, while we were all busy cooing over the humans' quaint obsession with democracy and their charming habit of strapping themselves to barely controlled explosions for extreme sports, we missed one teensy-weensy detail. The elder leaned in close, its voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Humans are batshit crazy. A confused murmur rippled through the young audience. Oh, don't give me that look. I know. Elder Zix, that's not a scientific term. Well, tough thorax. Sometimes you need to abandon scientific precision in favor of good old-fashioned truth-bombing. Zix 427 clicked its mandibles in frustration. The point is, we didn't realize just how unhinged these bipedal menaces were until it was too late. The elder settled back, its voice taking on a storyteller's cadence. It all started when the Void Scourge emerged from the impenetrable nebula. Now, we'd been calling it impenetrable for eons because, well, it was impenetrable. Turns out we just weren't trying hard enough. Or crazy enough. The Void Scourge swept through our peaceful galaxy like a cosmic wrecking ball. Empires that had stood for millennia crumbled in months. Planets we thought were impregnable fell like dominoes. It was as if the universe had suddenly remembered it had a delete button and was going through a particularly vicious spring cleaning. Zix 427's antennae drooped. We tried to fight back, of course. The nebulons deployed their feared disco ball of doom. The gravitons attempted to crush the Scourge fleets with artificially generated black holes. Even the gelatinous blob collective tried to suffocate enemy ships with their patented embrace of gooey death, but nothing worked. The elder's eyes gleamed with a mix of admiration and horror. That's when the humans stepped up. Now, remember, these were the same creatures who thought it was a good idea to strap themselves to controlled explosions for fun. The same species that once nearly wiped themselves out arguing over which invisible sky friend was the real deal. So when they said, "Hey, we've got this," we should have run screaming in the opposite direction. But we didn't. We were desperate, you see. So when Human Ambassador Charles Chuck Mitorian marched into the Galactic Council chambers, we listened. And oh boy, did Chuck have some ideas. Zix 427 adopted a gruff, vaguely human-sounding voice. Listen up, you overgrown space roaches. You want to beat the void scourge? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a bunch of suns, smooshing them together until they go kaboom, and then we're going to ride that kaboom straight up the scourge's collective asteroid. The elder paused, letting the absurdity sink in. Now, any sane species would have laughed Chuck right out of the council chambers. But here's the kicker: we didn't. Because by that point we were so deep in the entropy that even sun smooshing started to sound like a viable battle strategy. So we gave the humans the reins. And that, my dear grubs, is when things got really weird. One of the younglings, its exoskeleton practically vibrating with excitement, burst out. What happened next? Elder Zix. The elder's mandibles curved into what might have been a smile. Oh, you want to know what happened next? Buckle up, kiddos. Because what happened next is the stuff of legends, nightmares, and probably a few intergalactic therapy sessions. Zix 427 leaned back, its voice taking on a dramatic tone. Picture this: there we were, cowering in our bunkers, watching our fancy holoscreens as the void scourge tore through another solar system. Then, out of nowhere, a human fleet pops into existence. And when I say fleet, I mean the craziest collection of cobbled-together space junk you've ever laid eyes on. The elder's antennae wiggled excitedly. We're talking ships held together with what looked suspiciously like duct tape and prayers. Fighters that seemed to be powered by good old-fashioned combustion engines, you know. The kind that go vroom vroom and spit fire. And leading the charge? A massive battleship that appeared to be nothing more than a hollowed-out asteroid with engines strapped to it. Now, we all thought this was it, the end. Humanity's last desperate stand that would end in a spectacular fireball, and maybe, if we were lucky, a cool explosions compilation for future generations to enjoy. Zix 427 paused, its compound eyes glimmering with mirth. Boy, were we wrong. The human fleet didn't just engage the void scourge, they went at them, like a swarm of caffeinated hornets at a picnic. Their ships zoomed and zipped around, pulling maneuvers that made physics itself throw up its hands and go, "Nope, I'm out." The elder adopted a series of voices, mimicking radio chatter. Yeehaw. Take that, you cosmic squid. I'm hit. I'm hit. ... Wait, that was just a space pebble. Carry on. Who wants barbecue? 'Cause I'm firing up the main engines, and we're having roasted scourge for dinner. Zix 427 chuckled, a sound like pebbles in a blender. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrifying chaos. The void scourge, for the first time since they emerged, looked confused. It was as if they couldn't compute the sheer, unadulterated madness they were facing. And then the elder's voice dropped to a whisper. The humans unveiled their secret weapon. The younglings leaned in, antennae quivering with anticipation. They called it Operation Yarnball. Don't ask me why humans and their naming conventions are a mystery wrapped in an enigma, deep-fried in nonsense. But here's what they did. They took a bunch of wormholes, twisted them together like some cosmic knitting project gone wrong, and hurled the whole mess at the Scourge fleet. Zix 427's eyes widened dramatically. The result? Pure, unadulterated pandemonium. Scourge ships were getting their front ends tangled with their own rear ends. Some popped in and out of existence like subatomic hiccups. Others found themselves suddenly inside out, which, let me tell you, is not a good look for anyone. But the humans weren't done. Oh no, they were just getting started. While the Scourge was busy trying to untangle itself from the space-time equivalent of a bad hair day, the humans launched Phase 2 of their plan. The elder paused, building suspense. They deployed. The memes. A confused murmur rippled through the young audience. Oh, you think I'm joking? I wish I was. The humans had somehow weaponized their bizarre sense of humor. They'd bombarded the Scourge with images of cats, asking for cheeseburgers, distracted boyfriends, and something called a rickroll. We had no idea what any of it meant, but apparently it was devastating to the Scourge's hive mind. Zix 427 shook its head in bewilderment. Imagine trying to coordinate a galactic invasion while your neural network is being overrun with pictures of a dog wearing sunglasses and saying much wow. It was like trying to solve quantum mechanics while someone's tickling you with a feather duster. The Scourge's once unstoppable advance ground to a halt. Their ships started bumping into each other like drunken space whales at a cosmic mixer. Some even began to retreat, probably hoping to find a quiet corner of the universe where they could curl up and pretend this never happened. The elder's voice took on a tone of grudging admiration. And through it all, the humans just kept coming. They threw everything they had at the scourge, and I do mean everything. At one point, I swear I saw them launching what looked like flaming pianos at the enemy. Don't ask me how or why. With humans, it's best not to question these things. Zix 427 leaned back, its exoskeleton creaking. And you know what the craziest part was? They were laughing. In the middle of this insane reality-bending battle, you could hear human laughter echoing through the comm channels. They were having the time of their lives. The elder's tone became more somber. That's when we realized something that chilled us to our very core. The humans weren't just good at war, they enjoyed it. They thrived on chaos, fed off the impossible. Where we saw certain doom, they saw opportunity. As the dust settled and the last of the scourge limped back to whatever cosmic nightmare they'd crawled out of, we found ourselves facing a new reality. We had survived, yes. The galaxy was safe. But at what cost? Zix 427's eyes dimmed. We had unleashed something far more unpredictable, far more volatile than the Void Scourge could ever hope to be. We had given free rein to a species that treated the laws of physics like a list of polite suggestions, that laughed in the face of certain death, and that seemed to pull victory from the jaws of defeat through sheer, bloody-minded stubbornness. The elder's voice dropped to a whisper. We had saved the galaxy by handing it over to the humans. One of the younglings, its exoskeleton pale with shock, raised a trembling appendage. But Elder Zix, if humans are so dangerous, why are they still our allies? Zix 427 let out a long, weary sigh. Ah, little one, that's the real kicker. You see, after all that, after turning our understanding of warfare, physics, and good taste upside down, the humans just went back to normal, or what passes for normal among their kind. The elder's tone became wry. One day they're rewriting the fabric of space-time to make the universe's most terrifying enemy trip over its own tentacles. The next, they're back to arguing over which sports team is the best or trying to teach their pet rocks to do tricks. It's like they have an on-off switch for galaxy-shaking insanity. And that, my dear grubs, is what makes them so terrifying. Because you never know when they might decide to flip that switch again. Zix 427's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. So we keep them close. We smile and nod when they suggest turning a gas giant into a giant bouncy castle. We politely decline when they offer to spice up our solar system with a few strategically placed black holes. And we pray to whatever cosmic forces might be listening that we never, ever give them a reason to go full human again. The elder's eyes twinkled with a mix of fear and admiration. Because if there's one thing we learned from the Void Scourge incident, it's this: in a universe of impossibilities, never bet against human insanity. They just might save your thorax, right after they've turned it inside out and used it as a makeshift disco ball. Zix 427 stretched, its exoskeleton popping. And that, my little larvae, is why you should always be nice to the humans. Offer them your seat on the interdimensional bus. Laugh at their incomprehensible jokes. And for the love of all that's holy, never challenge them to a drinking contest. The elder's voice became serious. Because remember, behind every smiling human face is the potential for universe-warping chaos. And in this crazy cosmos of ours, sometimes that's exactly what you need. Now, who wants to hear about the time a human tried to teach the gelatinous blob collective how to river dance? As the younglings chittered excitedly, Zix 427 settled in for another tale, silently thanking whatever cosmic joke had made humanity both the galaxy's greatest threat and its unlikeliest savior. After all, in a universe full of impossibilities, sometimes the craziest solution is the only one that works, and nobody, but nobody, does crazy quite like the humans. As the younglings' excited chittering died down, one of them raised a trembling appendage. Elder Zix, you said there were consequences to letting the humans save us. What happened after the war? Zix 427's compound eyes dimmed, and its antennae drooped slightly. Ah, my curious little grub. You've stumbled upon the part of the story that gives even the bravest arthropodian warrior nightmares. Gather round, for it's time you learned about the aftermath of humanity's greatest hits, and I don't mean their music, though that's terrifying in its own right. The elder settled into a more comfortable position, its exoskeleton creaking ominously. Picture this: the galaxy, freshly saved from the void scourge, breathing a collective sigh of relief. We thought the worst was over. Oh, how adorably naive we were. Zix 427's voice took on a mocking tone. Surely, we thought, the humans will go back to their quiet corner of the cosmos now. Maybe invent a few more improbable foods or continue their eternal quest to make their communication devices thinner than atomic particles. The elder let out a sound that might have been a laugh, if laughter sounded like a garbage disposal choking on a fork. But no, dear grubs. The humans had gotten a taste for galactic shenanigans, and they were hungry for more. One of the younglings chittered nervously. What did they do? Elder Zix. The elder's mandibles clicked in what might have been a grin. What didn't they do? It started innocently enough. They offered to help rebuild the devastated worlds. Noble, right? Well, hold on to your thoraxes, because this is where it gets weird. Zix 427 adopted a cheery, slightly manic tone. Hey, Xenon 7, we noticed your planet's gravity is a bit wonky after that scourge attack. How about we fix that for you? We've got this nifty little black hole generator we've been dying to try out. The elder's voice shifted to a panicked squeak. Thanks humans, but we're quite happy with our wonky gravity nonsense. It'll be fun. What's the worst that could happen? Zix 427 paused dramatically. 3 guesses as to what happened next, and the first 2 don't count. A collective gasp rippled through the young audience. That's right, kids. The humans, in their infinite wisdom, decided to fix Xenon 7's gravity by introducing a miniature black hole to the planet's core. To be fair, it did solve the gravity problem. It also turned the entire planet into a cosmic golf ball, with the inhabitants spending half their time on the surface and the other half falling through tubes that crisscrossed the planet's interior. The elder's antennae twitched in bemusement. The Xenonites were not amused. The humans, on the other hand, thought it was the greatest thing since sliced antimatter. They even started a galactic extreme sports league called Quantum Mini Golf, where every hole is a hole in space-time. Zix 427 shook its head, mandibles clicking. But that was just the beginning. The humans, flush with their success against the void scourge, decided that what the galaxy really needed was more humans. The elder's voice took on a tone of mock enthusiasm. We've got all these nifty DNA samples from across the galaxy. Wouldn't it be cool if we could, mix and match? Create some super soldiers for the next time we need to kick cosmic butt. A horrified silence fell over the young audience. Oh yes, my little larvae. The humans embarked on what they called Project Chimera. They threw DNA from a dozen different species into a blender, hit puree, and waited to see what would pop out. Zix 427's eyes glimmered with a mix of horror and reluctant admiration. The results were interesting, to say the least. We got soldiers with the strength of a graviton, the psychic abilities of an octobrain, and the devastating flatulence of a methane dweller. Formidable warriors, sure, but try fitting them into a standard-issue spacesuit. The elder paused, letting the implications sink in. But here's the real kicker: some of these chimeras escaped. They're out there now, roaming the galaxy, leaving a trail of confused geneticists and violated building codes in their wake. If you ever see a creature that looks like it was designed by a committee of drunk, mad scientists, just smile, nod, and back away slowly. One of the younglings, its exoskeleton practically vibrating with a mix of fear and excitement, burst out, "But Elder Zix, surely the Galactic Council did something to stop the humans." Zix 427 let out a long, weary sigh. "Oh, you sweet summer lava. The Galactic Council trying to stop the humans is like a paper bag trying to contain a supernova. But yes, they did try. Oh, how they tried." The elder's voice took on a pompous, official tone. "Attention, humanity. While we appreciate your enthusiasm, in galactic affairs we must insist that you cease and desist from the following activities: turning black holes into wormhole generators, using quasars as disco balls, attempting to squeegee the space-time continuum. And for the love of all that's holy, stop trying to teach the hive mind collective how to individuate through the power of interpretive dance." Zix 427 chuckled, a sound like gravel in a blender. "You know what the humans did?" They looked at that list and said, "Challenge accepted." The elder's antennae drooped. That's when things got really out of hand. The humans, apparently feeling constrained by the laws of physics, decided to see which ones were more flexible than others. 6427's voice took on a manic, excited tone. Hey guys, what if we take this star, smoosh it really hard, and then stretch it out like cosmic silly putty? We could make like a space bridge. The elder paused, mandibles clicking in disbelief. And you know what? It worked. They called it the cosmic slinky. Suddenly, you could hop from one end of the galaxy to the other in the time it takes to say what the F. Elder Zix, one of the younglings, chirped in shock. Fantastic feat of engineering, the elder finished smoothly. But of course it didn't stop there. Oh no, the humans, drunk on their success and probably a few gallons of their beloved coffee, a substance I'm convinced is actually liquid insanity, decided to take on their greatest challenge yet. Zix 427 leaned in close, its voice dropping to a whisper. They tried to teach the void scourge the concept of humor. A confused murmur rippled through the young audience. Oh yes, my little grubs. The humans, in their infinite wisdom, decided that the reason the scourge was so cranky was that they just didn't know how to laugh. So they launched Operation Chuckles, a mission to bombard the remnants of the scourge with every joke, meme, and slapstick routine in human history. The elder's eyes dimmed. The results were mixed. On the plus side, the scourge stopped trying to devour all of creation. On the downside, they developed a particular fondness for something called dad jokes now. Instead of terror and destruction, they spread groans and eye rolls across the cosmos. Zix 427 adopted a deep, menacing voice. Prepare for annihilation, puny lifeforms. Why did the chicken cross the galaxy? To get to the other side. Ha 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 ha. The elder shuddered. Some say this fate is worse than extinction. The jury's still out on that one. One of the younglings, its exoskeleton pale with a mix of awe and horror, raised a trembling appendage. But Elder Zix, if the humans are so chaotic, how has the galaxy survived? Zix 427 clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. Ah, now that's the real mystery, isn't it? By all accounts, the galaxy should have imploded, exploded, or turned itself inside out at least a dozen times by now. But here we are, still spinning merrily through the cosmos. The elder's voice took on a tone of grudging admiration. You see, for all their chaos and insanity, the humans have an uncanny knack for pulling victory from the jaws of defeat. Or, in many cases, creating a whole new game where both victory and defeat are outdated concepts. Zix 427 leaned back, its eyes twinkling. Take the great energy crisis of 2781, for example. Half the galaxy was on the brink of collapse due to dwindling fuel reserves. The Galactic Council was in an uproar, pointing mandibles and tentacles, assigning blame faster than a quantum politician changes positions. The elder adopted a grim, serious tone. This is the end, they cried. Civilization as we know it will crumble. We'll be reduced to rubbing rocks together for warmth. Zix 427 paused dramatically. And then, in walks a human. Not a scientist, not a politician, but what did they call it? A gym trainer. The elder's voice shifted to a cheery, enthusiastic tone. Hey guys, why don't we just hook up some giant hamster wheels to our power grids? We can take turns running in them. It'll solve the energy crisis and help with that pesky galactic obesity problem. A confused silence fell over the young audience. I know. It sounds insane. It is insane. But you know what? It worked. The humans set up enormous space stations with millions of these hamster wheels. They turned exercise into a competition, complete with leaderboards and ridiculous outfits. Zix 427's mandibles curved in what might have been a smile. Suddenly, everyone wanted to contribute to the galactic power grid. Species that hadn't moved in millennia were queuing up for their turn on the cosmic cardio cruiser. The energy crisis was solved. Galactic health improved. And the humans invented a new sport called extreme hamster balling, which, well, let's just say it's not for the faint of heart or weak of stomach. The elder's tone became more serious. But here's the thing, my little larvae. For all their insanity, for all the chaos they bring, the humans have given the galaxy something it desperately needed: adaptability. Zix 427's eyes dimmed slightly. Before the humans, we were set in our ways. Comfortable. Stagnant. When the void scourge came, we were caught with our thoraxes down, because we couldn't imagine anything outside our tidy little universe. The elder's voice took on a note of wonder. The humans? They thrive on the impossible. They look at the fundamental laws of the universe not as unbreakable rules, but as polite suggestions. To them, that's impossible isn't a deterrent, it's a challenge. Zix 427 leaned forward, its voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. And you know what the scariest part is? They're rubbing off on us. A collective gasp rippled through the young audience. Oh yes, these days you'll see Nebulons experimenting with solid food. Gravitons are taking up zero-G ballate. Heck, I even heard a rumor that the gelatinous blob collective is considering individual names. Can you imagine? The elder's tone became wry. Of course not everything they touch turns to gold. There was that unfortunate incident with the Hive Mind Collective and social media. Turns out, when you connect a billion minds and then introduce them to trolling, things get messy. We're still finding pockets of rage tweets in some of the more remote sectors. Zix 427 stretched, its exoskeleton popping. But for every disaster there's a dozen breakthroughs. The humans have pushed us, challenged us, and yes, occasionally made us want to tear our sensory appendages out in frustration. But they've also made the galaxy a more vibrant, more dynamic place. The elder's eyes twinkled with a mix of fear and admiration. So yes, we live in constant fear that they might accidentally turn the galactic core into a giant lava lamp. But we also know that if when the next big threat comes, the humans will be there, armed with their impossible solutions and their unyielding belief that the universe is their playground. Zix 427's voice softened. And that, my dear grubs, is why we tolerate their madness, why we smile and nod when they suggest solving overpopulation, by just building more universe, why we politely decline their offers to spice up our evolutionary path with a few fun genetic tweaks. The elder's tone became serious. Because in this vast, chaotic cosmos, the humans have taught us the most valuable lesson of all, that the only true constant is change, and that sometimes the craziest solution is the only one that works. One of the younglings, its exoskeleton practically vibrating with excitement, burst out, "Elder Zix, do you think we'll ever be as adaptable as the humans?" Zix 427 let out a sound that might have been a chuckle, if chuckles sounded like a malfunctioning garbage disposal. "Oh, my sweet little lava, we're already more human than we'd like to admit. Why, just the other day, I caught myself wondering if it was possible to use a black hole as a garbage disposal. Can you imagine?" The elder's eyes twinkled mischievously. "But let's keep that between us, shall we? We wouldn't want the humans to think they're rubbing off on us too much. They might take it as a challenge to up their game, and frankly, I don't think the fabric of reality could handle humans at 200% capacity." Zix 427 stretched again, its joints creaking. "Now, who wants to hear about the time a human tried to teach the quantum uncertainty principle the concept of commitment? No? How about the Great Galactic Bake-Off, where a human's Schrodinger's cake managed to win and lose simultaneously?" As the younglings chittered excitedly, Zix 427 settled in for another tale. The elder's mind wandered to the vast, chaotic, wonderful universe outside a universe forever changed by the arrival of those bizarre, brilliant, terrifying creatures called humans. And despite itself, despite the constant low-grade anxiety that came with sharing a galaxy with a species that treated cosmic laws like a suggested dress code, Zix 427 felt a warmth in its thorax. Because for all their faults, for all their insanity, the humans had given the galaxy something precious, a future limited only by imagination. Of course, given that it was human imagination we're talking about, that future promised to be weird, wild, and probably violation of at least a few laws of physics. But then again, in a universe full of impossibilities, who better to lead the way than the species that made impossible their daily breakfast? Zix 427's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. The galaxy might never be the same, but maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a bad thing after all. After all, in the immortal words of that great human philosopher, whose name escaped the elder at the moment, in a world of predictable insanity, the only sane choice is to embrace the madness, or something like that. Humans and their sayings were as confusing as they were numerous, but then again, that was part of their charm. As Zix 427 launched into another tale of human-induced galactic chaos, the elder couldn't help but feel a twinge of excitement. Because with humans around, one thing was certain: life in the cosmos would never, ever be boring. And really, in a universe as vast and wondrous as theirs, Wasn't that the greatest gift of all?